So I'm Alexis Wallach. I'm the environmental specialist for the hallevents Indians. And I've been working for the tribe for about 15 years total and about 5 years on environmental issues. So we're going to be talking today about our pilot project we did to help reduce the amount of disposable plastics for our lunch program and in our administration building in general. So we're going to cover kind of the overview of the program, some of the tools and resources we use, some outreach, some cost savings, some lessons learned, and then some of the resources we'll have available.
And we should say too that this whole project was funded by EPA Zero Waste Office. And we have Erica here at the end to talk about the program too. So we can get into how you get some money.
Yes. Right. So Paula is located in northern San Diego County. And so I was also going to say, Paula is made up of both Luiseño and Cupeño tribes, and the reservation was established in 1903. It's made of approximately 13,000 acres, and there's about 1,400 residents living on the reservation, both tribal and non. So I just love this picture from 1905 up here on the left. And then I tried to recreate it down there in this year with our drone. It's not quite right, but it's close. And then there's a nice overview of the reservation from 2010.
Okay, so we're going to go over the problem list that we saw. So we have our kitchen in our administration building. They provide lunch daily for staff and seniors that come to the administration building. They also have a senior lunch delivery service, which is actually what we initially were thinking would be great to try to reduce the amount of plastic waste. But we'll get to that. That didn't pan out. Not as easy. We also, in addition to both of those, we have a breakroom upstairs. So a lot of our staff get food downstairs. They bring it upstairs to the kitchen. And the kitchen downstairs, when they were serving food, it was all in plastic clamshells and individual styrofoam bowls and little individually wrapped silverware sets that have the fork, the spoon, the knife, and the all the stuff. Even when it's just soup day, so you only need the spoon, So there were a lot of disposable items that were either used or not even used, but all ending up in the landfill. So that was a big problem. And we also kind of looked at the cost of all of that to the tribe. It's a lot. It's a big cost to buy the stuff up front. It's a big cost to dispose of it. With our trash hauling services, because we have a transfer station on our reservation, but we haul everything off. So it's a big cost, especially food waste. And food waste was not really under the purview of this grant, but we kind of, we snuck in some of those aspects because we care about that in our office and we wanted to kind of tackle it. There's also just it's a huge environmental waste of all that plastic and styrofoam. And we also rolled into this program water bottle waste. So we also had individual water bottles throughout the administration building and they served at lunch. And then we had those big 5-gallon water jugs, which I will not get on my soapbox today about that, but I have very strong opinions about those things. And anyways, I'll stop there. But I think we can all agree it'd be better to not have those, especially in our administration building where a lot of our tribal community comes in. So those were some of the big issue problems. Okay. So as we were thinking through this, these are some of the questions that we kind of worked through, both with our kitchen staff and other employees that used the kitchen and the break room. We talked to seniors, we talked to Erica with our EPA counterparts. So we kind of wanted to look at what exactly are we using now, like how much are we paying for it, and where can we reduce the amount of plastics that we are currently using. So we might not be able to get rid of every single item, but we really tried. We got rid of pretty much most of the stuff. And how can we reduce the cost? Because we tend to try to sell things to our executive council, our tribal council, by like how much can we save the tribe if we do this pilot, or if we do, like make changes? Because that's a good, that's a good motivator. It's something that, like any money saved from that kind of stuff is money that they can use for other projects, for our tribal community. So it's a win-win. So we try to sell things like that. And then we also kind of look at how much, like, as a side note, are there areas or opportunities where we could reduce the food waste? As you guys probably also know, food waste in this country is huge. There's, both pre-consumer and post-consumer, so like the vegetables that you cut up and the chunks that you don't use, and like if you take the whole big tray of food but you don't eat everything, so that's all wasted. So it's a huge problem in this country. And food waste is particularly heavy, so it costs more for landfilling. So better cost benefit for the tribe if we can reduce that. And then we also kind of looked at what are the barriers to asking both our kitchen staff and our seniors and our administration staff to make some of these behavior changes. So what are the barriers that we might encounter, and then how can we incentivize new habits? Okay, so, well, hopefully in the slide deck, if you look at these slides later, the colors will translate better. But so I already kind of talked about step one, which was looking at what items did we use downstairs in the kitchen, what items did we use upstairs in the break room, and where could we reduce, where were the opportunities. And then step two is actually reducing all of those single-use plastics, so getting them out of our kitchen and trying to figure out things that we can replace them with. And step three was getting rid of those water bottles and the big water jugs and figuring out things that we could replace those with. And then step four is really just the outreach for the entire program. So how are we selling it to our community? How are we selling it to our staff? All of that good stuff. Next. Yeah. Okay, so the next two slides, this one's on step two, and the next one will be on step three, just kind of breaking it out. So we had a lot of meetings with our kitchen staff because we were asking, it's a big ask, to ask them to change what they're doing, which already works, easily for them, they're used to it. And so we wanted to make sure that they were on board with us for any changes that we make, and to try to listen and see if we could identify opportunities of maybe other things that they needed that, like Grace said, we could kind of meet them a little bit closer. And, they could get something out of it for helping us with this item. So out of those conversations came, well, if we get rid of all the plastic waste and get new plates, they had some plates already that they use for like events, because I should have mentioned that earlier. We have large events and meetings and workshops at the tribal hall often. They have really heavy, were they glass or ceramic?
I think they were ceramic, but they were like 14-inch, they were like ginormous dinner plates, which also encourages people to get home food, so we fill the plate. That's not the same.
And they're heavy for the seniors. Yeah, I think they were hand-me-downs from the casino at one point. But so they almost never got used. And so we got rid of all the plastic, and we got rid of all of those like heavy plates, and instead we purchased Corel plates, which was requested by our kitchen staff because they were like, they're light, they don't break, they're easy to stack, and we got the same plates and bowls and other things for downstairs and upstairs in the break room. So if staff get food downstairs and they bring it up to the break room and they wash it, they put it back in the cabinets upstairs. And every so often, we'll go through the cabinets, and if there's too much in the break room, we bring it down to the kitchen. But it's kind of nice because it all matches, so it makes it really easy. We also got really nice coffee mugs and water containers, new silverware. Our break room upstairs was a bit of a shambles, as you can imagine. I'm sure most staff break rooms are like this, where everyone just kind of brings stuff. There were I couldn't even tell you how many mugs that no one used because
Pretty sure people just brought stuff from home. They're like, I don't need these mugs anymore. Well, I need to be 100 other mugs. And
there were some very interesting.
also weird Tupperware, like there's no matching lids and
Things were so odd. It was just not, yes. So as part of this, we cleaned all of that out and got new stuff and organized it nice and neatly and had nice signs. No, that's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. Because we can get into that a little bit more. We also, so for the water bottle filling stations that we got rid of, we purchased these really nice ones. Although we discussed this afterwards and we were like, the next time when we scale up, we're gonna get ones that not only can you fill your water bottle, but you can like use it as a drinking water fountain, just in case, you have some random person stopping by and they did not bring their reusable water bottle. And we did run into a few issues with this, with like we had sites picked out that were perfect. But then we ran into, well, there's no water line in this wall, so you can't put it there. There's no water.
apparently you need water and drainage.
And
And electricity. But so you see the one that's outside, these are like units for the inside. So we put that one outside, they're like, it'll work, but I don't know how long it'll last. So it's showing a little more age than the rest. So when we do eventually need to replace that one, especially if that's not by our ball field, so that one will definitely have the water fountain feature on it. And will be meant for outside, so it'll last. I mean, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, it's fine. And it's getting used a lot because we have a lot of softball tournaments, a lot of kids from not just Paula, but neighboring tribes and even like non-tribal kids use our ball fields. So I'm getting a lot of these. The one in the center is like a standalone, so it's not like a built-in one. And we got that because we had this perfect spot, but then we were told that there was water and electricity, but no drain. Although come to find out, that was not true. We didn't learn that until 2 months afterwards. That was
Yeah, and then also because those units are so tall and they had built-in cabinets, so the bottom of the unit would have been a couple feet high. So like to get the water, it would have been, we figured that probably wasn't great for the seniors.
yeah. It was also not great for me. I couldn't reach.
Yeah. So we got this cute little guy and he works perfectly well. All right. So to do this, we partnered, like we said, with the EPA and their, what was the grant called?
Trash-free water.
Trash-free waters, thank you. So we also worked with Rethink Disposable and looked at resources from the NOAA Marine Degree Program, Center for Environmental Health. There's also a lot of like webinars and trainings available online. And of course, Erica here and Jenny were both huge helps and would like, anytime we had a question, if they didn't know the answer, of course, they would go find it and they were great.
And we have even more resources and webinars and toolkits and stuff that we put in our toolkit that we didn't use for this round, but might be useful for you. Okay, so one of the things that we did is, how many people have heard of community-based social marketing? Okay, so there's a handful, that's good. This is a tool that we were introduced to by EPA a number of years ago. EPA came to us and wanted to see if we wanted to work on a recycling pilot together. But the caveat was that we had to use this tool, community-based social marketing. Now the way I think of this is, okay, how many people, when you see an advertisement on TV, like say, like some of the Coca-Cola ads from maybe when we were younger, I'm gonna say when, where it's like, it's a really hot day and the person's like dripping sweat and they just crack open this like, it's always a glass bottle, I don't know where you actually find these glass bottles or Coke, but, and it's like the condensation is on there and it seems so refreshing. So that's all advertising so that you buy, you buy Coke. So this is kind of the same thing. It's advertising, but for good. So you can use it for like environmental messaging or really any kind of advocacy or, there's been so many different uses throughout the decades that it's been created. And there's tons of resources online. All you have to do is Google community-based social marketing. And if you want more information on the presentations, I'm happy to just email me and I'll shoot you over some PDFs, PowerPoints. But basically, this tool, you walk through these 6 steps. So the first step is to select the goal or the behavior change that you want to get your community on board with. To either stop doing this or to start doing that. And then you have to figure out your target audience. Because this is successful only when you really do target your audience. So for us, we look at the behavior goal that we are trying to change is to get rid of plastic, to get rid of the water bottles, which people love. Because of advertising for water bottle companies, but I'm gonna stop there, stop myself. But basically, water bottle companies have spent more money than like most small countries make just to tell you that, tap water is not very safe. You should drink our bottled water. It's safe, it's clean, which is not true, but the advertising has been very successful over the last 2 decades. And so many of us think that. So our behavior change that we're trying to do is to get not just the kitchen to make that step, because they were on board. They have some sneaky environmental nerds just like us in there, so they were using cells. So the harder cells were the seniors, they don't like change, our staff throughout the entire administration building. They really didn't like some of the changes. They like doing things a certain way. So we were going to ask them to stop using these very convenient clamshells and to instead use reusable plates, which then they actually have to wash. They ate downstairs, it just goes into a tray in the kitchen, washes it. With a brand new dishwasher. I should have mentioned before that was part of this project. Originally, we were supposed to pay for it out of this grant, but then the tribe got to jump on us and pay for it anyways. So you're asking them to make these changes. So that's step 1. And our target audience was, we kind of broke it down into seniors, that was one group demographic, and then our staff was another, like our building-wide staff was another target audience. And the reason you break things down for a target audience is because you're going to message to them differently. They'll have different barriers or obstacles, which is the second step, is to identify what is going to be the roadblock that's going to stop them from making the behavior change that you're asking them to make. And then step 3 is to then take all of those roadblocks, those potential roadblocks, and then identify, how can we move that roadblock and set them up for success so they follow through with the behavior change. Now, you're never going to figure out all of the roadblocks ahead of time. There's always going to be things that get thrown at you at the last minute, and as we have found. So you do your best, but you try to think outside the box. And the other way to get at both of those pieces of information is to do pre and post surveys, which we did, although we call them questionnaires. Right? Yes, so DBA we call them questionnaires. So basically, you survey your target audience. So if this were to happen, why would you do it? And if you wouldn't do it, why would you do it? So not only are we trying to brainstorm things, but we're also asking, our audience, our target audience, why would you maybe potentially not do it? And what would help you to start doing it? Like if we give away cool giveaway things like swag, would that help you get to that? If we make it really easy, if we make the plates really nice and light for seniors, could that be a good way to get you to do this? So you do, it's a lot of like upfront work, but it makes like the messaging, which is kind of what you're getting to, so like setting up your pilot makes the messaging a lot easier. So step 4 is then to design your pilot, like exactly what are you gonna do, how are you gonna sell it, what brochures, what posters, what incentives, what outreach are you gonna do, all that kind of stuff. And then you do it. Step 5, start the pilot. And then step 6, always important, is to then, after it's done, to kind of look at the whole thing and be like, what worked? What didn't work? What can we scale up? What do we need to go back to the drawing board and change for next time? So there's a ton more stuff on this topic, but I highly recommend using this tool for any kind of environmental program you're working on.
All right, so as far as education and outreach for the community, so in this case, mostly tribal employees, we always say punch and pie. So you gotta feed them, give them a nice drink. So if you want them to show up, then you have to give them something. Yeah, it makes it a little easier for some people. So far as incentives, we picked out some reusable silverware, which is great, except for each piece came wrapped in plastic. Kind of defeated the purpose, but in the long run, that will work out. We also got some nicer water bottles. So whenever we went into the break room or saw someone using the plates, the mugs, the water bottle filling station, we'd be like, great, here, would you like either the utensils or a water bottle, or both, depending on who it was and how schmoozy they were. I got talked down to multiple things. It's fine. It's all for the greater good.
We also have the one-on-one discussions. We should mention individual. So one of the other things that we found with this is okay, sorry, I talked about it, is the one-on-one discussions that we would have with people in the hallway, in the break room. Like, hey, like when we initially put in the water bottle filling stations, we still had the like sparklet ones right next to it. Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought you were saying one.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna be quiet.
Sorry, you're fine.
Sorry.
It's fine. That's kind of long. All right. Oh, and also for the kitchen staff, like she had mentioned earlier, we also got them serving utensils because theirs we're wearing now. We got new butter dishes because they were using like the individual. So someone would take like 4 things of little pads of butter and then like maybe use one. So now they have like a butter dish. They got napkins, dispensers that were easier for the seniors to use. So, and we also got the plates that they requested. So it was working with them to make everyone happy.
I have a question. So with the seniors, then when you delivered their food, did you basically change that at all, or did you the same stuff with the clam shelter?
No, so we ended up not doing the senior lunch delivery, which I think we'll cover a little bit more later. But that was too big of a hurdle, so we ended up kind of low hanging fruit.
During those initial, like on that community-based social marketing, we were asking questions and figuring out barriers. We looked at that with our senior department and the kitchen staff, and we couldn't come to that. It really was too big of a project initially, so that's why we started with low-hanging fruit. Because for us, anyways, it's a much easier thing if we could have a successful pilot and show success, show cost savings to the tribe, and then down the road, maybe then we can break that up and be like, well, you trusted us in this pilot and it worked, and we saved you money. So let's try something bigger, more ambitious.
So we made all of these signs. We kind of had a theme, so we'd be like, oh yeah, that's the environmental department sign about all this plastic stuff. So when they saw it, they knew what we were doing and who it was from. So yeah, we talked to people, we tried to motivate them, we made the changes, and then there were still people trying to use the other, the water bottles, the 5-gallon things, because there was, the tribe had like a contract, so they were still getting them delivered. And then at one point, we just, we asked the chairman for permission, and then we just removed them from the break room, or had them removed from the break room. So then they were stuck using our stuff.
We also, we did really try to push positive reinforcement. So, rewarding people who use the new items, and that really helped word of mouth spreads word of mouth, whatever that expression is. Anyway, sorry. Long day. We stopped people in the hallway in the break room when it's like, when we still had both of them and we catch them using the wrong one. So, we
You're like, why are you
would
using this
nicely
one?
ask.
And they're like, well, so-and-so said it's toilet water.
Smells like
Like,
blue
it's
water
not
because it was right
toilet
next to the restroom.
Yes. So like, it is perfectly fine, like the water, the tap water is perfectly clean. It is then filtered and cooled. There's nothing wrong with the water. So then the person was like, all right, I'll try it next time. And then like a couple days later, she stopped me in the hall and was like, you're right, this water's great. I was like, thank you, have a water bottle.
There were a number of people like that. No, I heard from Bobby that the water didn't taste good, so I haven't tried it. Well, let's do a taste test right now. Like you and I, let's just, like for funsies. We have a lot of different conversations between the two of us. And we got, each new person that we could convince is someone that's now on our team that can go and convince other people.
So let's see. Do more of the same, talk to people, bug them, harass them, very nice and pleasant. Keep trying to get them to come to the right side.
We had a lot of other, these were our really fun, cute, flyers and posters and stuff, but we had a lot of boring newsletter articles in both the tribal newsletter and our staff newsletter. We had a number of different, things about what's really in bottled water. We had a lot of boring stuff because some people are motivated. They need a little bit more data and more information to change their minds about something. So we tried to do outreach in a number of different ways. Just like when you're teaching, people have different teaching styles and everyone has different learning styles. Some people learn by auditory, some people, which baffles me because I just get lost. Some people are visual, so they need everything there. So, you try to hit all lines.
Another great thing that happened was our kitchen staff, they made this sign. And because we were like, well, if because some people come from other departments outside of the administration building, and we're like, well, if they need to use a to-go container. And they were like, no, we're no longer providing to-go containers, so you need to bring your own. And we're like, okay, all right, cool. I think only one person said they were never eating there again.
It was a senior.
So,
That's not bad. Ray said that he has seen them come back. So
it's not as bad.
And really, our kitchen staff was amazing. They were fully on board because not only did they just were no, you can't have the clamshells. They had they went out and got some, I think, disposable Tupperware for a couple of different people.
But they make the reusable kind.
Yeah.
So they were like, bring it back, or
Yes. Sorry. Thank you. Was reusable, not the disposable.
the plastic, but they're reusable.
And they make them. They legit make our transfer station staff bring them back. They make Oh, okay.
That's a fun
Okay, so, sorry, okay, we're gonna blast through some more of this. And if you guys, this was supposed to be your time, but anyways, so we did find cost savings. The kitchen was able to greatly reduce, and get rid of most of the disposable plastics that they had been purchasing previously. So that was a huge cost savings for them. Because we purchased the plates and that's what they've been using since then. So that's been great. There's a cost saving for the reduction of landfill bills. Unfortunately, I don't have the numbers for those because that was just the kitchen's landfill trash gets mixed with the building, gets mixed with other offsite buildings, and it was too difficult for me to parse out. So the exact dollar I don't have for that. But there was also cost savings for the water bottles, the big sparklets. So the tribe didn't actually end the water bottle contract because there are some departments offsite that don't have water, so they still needed some of those. But we reduced the amount of bottles that we were getting from the casino and that we were purchasing by like 3 floors, so that's great. And then the food waste, which we didn't really talk about, but we, as part of like side project with the kitchen with this, we're doing collecting their compost, so all the pre-consumer waste, and they have just initiated like a healthy seniors, and it's all gonna be fresh, which they were grumbling about, but it's produced a lot of green waste, like a lot of nice kitchen waste. And so we have buckets and they take it out to our little community garden next door to the building that we are setting up. So that's been great, because that's all stuff that's diverted from the landfill, so great.
Alright. So, lessons learned, we learned a lot. So basically, if you get staff involved early and talk to them often, it helps a lot to make the process go smoother. Have, like I said, having one-on-one conversations with people and addressing their specific concerns. So sometimes it is the cost of the plastic utensils. Sometimes it's the environmental, sometimes it's the personal health benefits. So if you can kind of meet them where they're at and have a conversation that helps. Be flexible. Like, I think we had to pick like 4 or 5 different locations for these water bottle filling stations before we found ones that work. Yeah, it's fine. Some people are just mean, and it's not personal. So you may get yelled at by seniors or other staff members or anybody, and it's not personal. They just, sometimes that's just the way they are. And that's fine.
It just means you gotta find a different way to sell it.
Yes. So even after you think you've succeeded, there may be some setbacks. So we recently, with these lovely water bottle filling stations, which are like the black sheep of this project, through no fault of their own. We had an issue where someone thought the water didn't taste good anymore because the filter light turned yellow, which means there's like another like 50 gallons can go through it before it needs to be changed. But they assumed because it was yellow, it was bad. And they started an email campaign. So it was like 6 people emailing us, you need to change it, the water's terrible. We're like, it turned on yesterday, people. Anyway, we changed it. And then there was a little like hubbub around it for a little bit, but it was like, all right, calm down. The water's fine. And then it wasn't cold enough.
But some people really love it, so.
And most people love it because it's only like a small handful that are. It's fine.
Okay, so scalability. So the water bottle filling stations, for the most part, work really well. We are planning on pushing them out throughout all of our different private buildings. Gonna have to find other grant funds to do that. There might be still a few buildings, a few departments that doesn't work because they just don't have a water line. So, but that's okay, because if we can pull it out and nurse them, that'd be great. In fact, actually, one of the staff people that did not really care for them, didn't really want to pull out the water bottles. He just came to me last week and was like, "Hey, do you have another one of those around?" I'm like, "No, they ended up like we put them, we installed them all." He's like, "Oh, because I have a department that could really use one." And I'm like, "Yes." I'm like, "Well, I'll work on finding some grants for that." So people can come around. Let's see, the other tribal departments. So we do have. There's a school on site, but it's not under tribal jurisdiction. So I don't know how feasible it is to work with them on something similar to what our kitchen did, but there are a bunch of California state regs for composting and plastic reduction, so we're hoping that maybe we can delve into that and partner with them. There's also so the senior lunch delivery. We do still have that's like our Everest. We're gonna get there someday. We're gonna have to figure out like a really easy way for we're gonna have to work on how to sell this to mostly our seniors. And then we also have childcare, preschool, and a learning center after school system mail kitchens. So that probably is one that in the short term we'll be able to kind of roll some of this out to them. And then food waste audits are always a good way to to show the cost savings, to like what the cost savings would be if you actually reduced how much food waste you're doing. And it kind of is it's an eye opener to people when they realize how much food waste they're wasting, which like if you translate it into dollars, like we're motivated by, like, oh, it's bad for the environment, but most people are not like that. So most people, like when you tell them like, well, like the food that you threw out this week, that was $200 basically. So you just threw $200 that drain. And that for people was like, oh. So anyways, that's kind of outside of this purview and me included in this. Now we're gonna let Erica, sorry, that's me. So we developed this resource guide. I think the QR code, I don't think I need to redo it. The QR code might not be. Yeah, I'll double check it. I'll make sure that when things get emailed out or in the folder for this, that the guide goes. So the guide is going to have like the entire pilot, a bunch of information on community-based social marketing, like how you go through that. Oh, did it not?
There's a Dropbox link.
Oh, okay.
It's okay.
Okay, good. I'll just make sure next week when I get back that everything is in there. But there's like step-by-step guide questions that you might want to ask. So if you want to do anything kind of like this, maybe it was worth kind of checking out and seeing if you can use it in your resources.
Yeah. So if you have no question, you can email us.
Please don't
Please.
call us.
All right. So now we're gonna let
Our EPA person talk about, oh no. Well, that's what QR code should still work. Sorry, everything. The presentation should look nice in the folder. It's great.
Okay, I will just talk for a minute. My name's Erica Ulensky. I work in our water division at EPA. I've been at EPA about a little over 15 years. I started out working on tribal solid waste issues and in our GAP, our tribal program office, and now I'm in water. And I'm at what we call trash-free waters program lead. I work really closely. Jenny, raise your hand, with Jenny Stevenson in the back, who's in our zero waste office. So I really want to thank Alexis and Heidi for their leadership. They came up with this project, and the grant was $25,000. It wasn't a lot. So they got money, the tribe contributed money, they found money from other grants, and I'll let Alexis think of a good description of what, but yes, a really successful project. So just in terms of process, EPA has lots of money for this. We were able to do a pilot using some money that our headquarters trash-free waters office has. So in terms of process, if you are, please take a look at all of these resources that these wonderful people have put together. If you're interested in doing something similar that fits your tribe situation, please email me and we can talk. I may or may not have money, but basically what we did, I think 3 years ago, Jenny and I were talking to tribes through the solid waste work group. Does anybody want to work with us? Is anybody interested in doing a project, source reduction, reducing plastics? And these wonderful people said yes. And so we started talking and had several conversations and kind of narrowed it down to a project that seemed to fit, that could be done with that amount of money. And we submitted a proposal to our headquarters office, and they said yes. And then a year later, the grant funding came through. So but we have other sources of funding, potentially GAP, potentially Tribal Clean Water Act 319. So I think it's good to start just a conversation. I'll loop in your project officer and see, could something like this fit into one of those? Could we fund it with our Treasury Waters money if that's available? And that's what I would say. And we have time for questions.
Your contact details about
What?
contact information.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay.
I did put there, so I will say Erica and Jenny, I have their contact information in the guide, our resource guide, because honestly, those two ladies are amazing resources for anything that's like even remotely solid waste. I feel bad because we are always contacting you guys and like, hey, we have a question. Hey,
Speaking of, I need to talk to Jenny.
that's so even if you have just a kernel of an idea, it's worth talking to them. So And their contact is in there.
Any questions? Phones are. No questions? We were that thorough and good?
It's just that.
No. Okay, there we go.
I'm really, really happy to see this taking off so successfully as it is. Congratulations. We personally work with that in Nevada as a nonprofit. We try to scale up. I think we've been trying to scale, and that's been more of our challenge than starting small, maybe one institution that has a lot of different components to it. We work directly with local restaurants, so we're trying to get them to start so it becomes a norm, a behavioral change like you were trying to explain. One of our behavior changes campaign is get the stuff, for instance, just trying to remind the customer they don't really need to pick up everything, just because it's free.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to maybe make a plug. It's not our institution, but we are also the Green Business Network for Nevada. California also has it, and I was wondering if maybe another selling point for the institutions and the heads of institutions that you're trying to talk to could be persuaded by wanting to become certified businesses. When they change water stations, that's kind of like halfway through. But it's they go through a little audit. People hold their hands through the whole process, and they can get visibility through being nationwide certified to the Green Business Network of California. We work for the Nevada ones. If anyone here wants to be certified by Nevada, that's us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Bessie from the Site Tribe. I was just wondering with your water bottle filling stations, are you looking to see if we get any portable ones for events like powwows and everything?
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And have you talked to the power committee about anything about reducing the plastics and all that?
Yeah, we don't have a power, but we do have an event in, like a,
We have two.
what do they call it? Yeah. Gathering.
The gatherings?
Words are escaping me today. But yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah.
Recently, I just learned from my 10-year-old niece in the Bay Area school, where she went and talked to her principal about reducing the amount of plastic forks, spoons, and knives they were using at their school, where they have those packages as well, and they only use a spoon, and then they toss the whole thing. So now, since she brought it up to her principal, they switched the school to those dispensers for individual plastic, and it's still plastic, but it's at least not dumping as much. So I was thinking when you guys spread out to expand to the schools and stuff, instead of just focusing on talking to the adults, you talk to the kids, because anything the kids say, they're gonna influence their parents into doing, or influence their teachers and stuff into wanting to do.
I mean, that's a great point. We definitely, let's say target children, but we definitely talk to the kids. And then they can, we definitely have kids being like, my mom doesn't recycle. We're like, what did you say? She's like, I told her that she had to recycle. Cool. It's very normal. But yeah, the kids are definitely a good avenue to get to the adults.
I might just mention, a couple years ago, I saw this amazing presentation. I think it was out of the Detroit school system where they had, but it was like, they got the kids on board. And so they had green, not hall monitors, but lunch monitors or something like that. But it was a whole program of basically pulling out the plastics and then also, I think, composting at the same time. And it was just so impressive. I just remember being like, oh, that would be so cool to do. And it really it's led by the kids. Like the kids, are the ones that they police each other, and they, there's a reward system, and then, it was pretty impressive. So I'm pretty sure it was Detroit.
I've seen this before too, and then the dispenser that I saw, it was actually biodegradable, and just to make a side note, biodegradable is not that much better, it's not plastic, but it's still polluting the resources. But, it's again, small steps. I wanted to ask, you mentioned that you were able to calculate through the food waste audits, the cost that you're saving off the food wasted. Maybe it's a little easier from my perspective, on my experience. We do an EPA type of waste audit with our restaurants too. The food scrap is a little easier to calculate how much you're saving, because if you're telling them, like, hey, change your produce schedule, this delivery schedule, so then you're saving and you can track with invoices. But I was wondering if you could explain a little more how we're able to measure that cost reduction.
So that was more of a scaling it up to do that kind of in-depth food audit. I've done some in the past, mostly like individuals, and it's a lot easier with businesses because you can do the pre-consumer. That's much easier to track. I think actually our casino does some of that. I think we worked with our casino a while ago to do some of that stuff. But the other thing is it's been a little bit of time. And EPA has a great food auditing program, but I'm gonna say also England has an amazing one that I stumbled upon I don't know how many years ago. Their outreach campaign was fantastic. It was like people that looked like fruits and vegetables, and like they were the face of the campaign. It was quite cool. But they had a lot of good resources, and EPA does too. So if you go to those sites, specifically the EPA one, I pulled off forms to track that and to it's kind of estimating, estimating amounts of money for people, but if you can work with, and this is mostly been individuals, like working with how much did you spend at the grocery store today, and then in 2 weeks, approximately, kind of working them through that. So.
And then we have one person.
So, I'm not sure if it applies, but with the lead testing program with ITCA, we're able, if you go through the program and your facility where your power wasn't held, if it's a community center that serves children, and you go through the program to test your water, we can provide help with short-term remediation. And one of those methods is providing a pitcher, a water filter pitcher. So I don't know if it's specifically what you're looking for, but in relation to schools and places that serve children, to add to the clean water, I know it's not entirely completely related, but it is a way to also get, point of use filters and pitchers in the schools that would inherently reduce plastic use. It's hard to correlate, but I hope that helps.
Are they beer size pitchers?
Yeah, so a Brita type filter, and they would be filtering for lead, but they would also be filtering for a bunch of other stuff too. So I can give you a card too, and it's all fine.
Thank you. All right, enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, I'm gonna go check out on this real quick, make sure everything's good. I'll be right back.
Thanks for watching.
Oh, of course. Not a problem.